Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Mm.
We love to take these deep dives into the heart of the tech world, and today, today we're going to be focusing on AMD.
AMD.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And specifically, we're going to be looking at the recent Q3 2024 earnings call.
Lots to unpack there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it gives us a really fascinating window into, not just how they're doing, but also like where they see themselves going, right? What's their plan?
Yeah, what are they betting on for the future? What are they excited about?
Exactly. And I think the big thing that jumped out at me, at least, was just this massive emphasis on AI.
Yeah, AI is eating the world right now in tech.
It really feels that way.
Every company earnings call you listen to, it's
AI.
all about AI. Yeah.
And so I'm really curious to dig into that with you today and see, what specifically AMD is doing and how that stacks up against the competition.
Yeah, sounds good.
So maybe just to set the stage right, AMD is a semiconductor company. They're known for their CPUs and GPUs.
Right, so CPUs like Ryzen for, our personal computers,
Yeah.
and then EPYC for servers.
The brains of the operation.
Yeah, exactly. And then GPUs, that's the Radeon line for gaming, and then Instinct for data centers.
Right. And it seems like they're really doubling down on that data center side of things.
Yeah, that's where the big growth is right now for them and really for the whole industry.
Yeah, well, speaking of growth, their data center revenue was over $3.5 billion in Q3.
Yeah, record-breaking for them.
Which is just, it's an insane number. And they said that was driven by both, those EPYC server CPUs and those Instinct AI GPUs.
Yeah, it shows, the demand is there, and that demand is being driven by a few things. Obviously, cloud computing is huge still.
Still massive, yeah.
Big data is just getting bigger and bigger.
Right, more data than ever.
And then, of course, AI is this, massive driver of computing power needs.
And I think that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because they're not just looking at now they're looking at like, okay, what's next? And they're saying that they think the market for AI accelerators.
AI accelerators, right.
These specialized chips
Yeah.
could reach $500 billion by 2028.
500 billion! That's incredible!
It's almost unimaginable. And for context, that's roughly the size of the entire semiconductor industry.
The entire industry in 2023.
In 2023.
So yeah, in 5 years, they're expecting this one segment to be as big as the whole thing is now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it, right? Like everything is going to need AI.
Yeah, like when we talk about AI accelerators, like what are we actually talking about? Like what do those do?
So basically, they're designed to speed up those specific AI tasks, things like training and running large language models, which is,
The rage these days.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what's behind, chatbots and those content generation tools. Even some of the more advanced search engines are using large language models now.
Right. And AMD has their own offering, right?
Yeah, the Instinct MI300X, that's their flagship AI accelerator. And they highlighted some pretty big partnerships during the call.
Yeah, like who?
So Microsoft is using the MI300X for its Copilot services.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Meta is using it for their Llama 2 large language model.
So that's pretty significant, right? Like these are big players.
Huge players, yeah. So they're clearly making some inroads, but the question is, can they catch up to the competition?
Right, because there's this, 800-pound gorilla in the room that we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, their main competitor has a pretty big head start in the AI space.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, do they acknowledge that? Like, do they see that as a hurdle?
Oh, they definitely acknowledge it. They said that, they launched their MI300 a little bit behind their competitor, but they're trying to speed up their roadmap to close that gap.
So like a race to the top.
It is, and they're not backing down. They've got some new chips coming out soon. They're gonna release the MI325X, which will compete with their competitor's H200. And then the MI350 series, which aims to rival their competitor's Blackwell chip.
So they're going head to head.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's not just about the hardware, right? They also need the software ecosystem and that ease of integration into data centers.
Right, so it's got to be easy for developers to actually use these chips.
Exactly. They need to make it easy to create and deploy those AI applications and make sure it works well with existing infrastructure.
It's a whole package deal.
Yeah, it's not just selling a chip, it's selling a solution.
And how are they doing on that front?
Well, they're investing a lot in R&D. They're working with key partners like Microsoft and Meta to optimize their hardware for those really demanding AI workloads. And they're also engaging with the open source community, which is really smart.
Yeah. Why is that so important?
Well, it broadens the appeal of their technology. It makes it more accessible.
Makes it more attractive to a wider range of developers.
Exactly. And that's how you build a thriving ecosystem.
So it sounds like they're doing a lot of things right, But are they doing enough?
That's the million-dollar question, right? They're facing some serious challenges, especially going up against that well-established competitor.
Right. It's hard to build trust and familiarity overnight.
Exactly, and especially in, the world of hyperscale computing.
Hmm.
Those massive data centers run by, the Googles and Amazons of the world, they need to prove themselves.
And it takes time to do that.
It does.
So, okay, we talked a lot about data centers, but AMD isn't just a data center company, right? They're
Right.
still in the PC game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they seem to be doing pretty well there, too.
Yeah, their Ryzen CPUs are still seeing strong demand, especially the new Zen 5 processors for desktops.
Yeah, those just came out.
And then the AI-powered Ryzen AI 300 series for laptops.
So they're bringing AI to the consumer market as well.
Yeah, and they're actually pretty optimistic about the PC market in general.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're saying that, businesses still need to upgrade from Windows 10.
Which is a lot of businesses.
A lot, yeah. And then there's this growing demand for AI-powered PCs, so they see that as a real opportunity.
Interesting. So it's like they're playing both sides of the field,
They are.
the data center and the PC market, and they're seeing opportunities in both.
Yeah, but of course there are always challenges.
Right. Like, what are some of the headwinds they might face?
Well, one thing is that the semiconductor market is notoriously cyclical. There are booms and busts.
Right.
So even though demand is really strong right now, that could change.
And if the economy takes a downturn?
Exactly. That could impact spending, especially by those big corporations.
So they're kind of at the mercy of the global economy.
To some extent, yeah.
Okay, so external factors aside, what are some of the internal challenges they're facing?
Well, like we talked about in the data center market, their main challenge is catching up to their competitor.
Right, closing that gap.
Exactly. And in the PC market, it's all about managing those profit margins.
Because those new CPUs with all the fancy AI features are probably expensive to make.
They are. They're pushing the boundaries of technology, and that comes at a cost.
So they have to find that sweet spot between innovation and affordability.
Yeah, and profitability, too.
Right, because at the end of the day, they're a business.
Exactly.
So it sounds like AMD is walking a tightrope,
A bit, yeah.
trying to innovate and capture market share while also managing costs and staying ahead of the competition.
It's a balancing act for sure.
So what do you think?
What about the future?
Yeah, like what happens if AMD manages to navigate all of this?
Yeah.
They execute on their strategy. They become a leader in this whole AI space.
It's an exciting thought, right?
It is.
Like their chips could be powering the future.
Give me the big picture. Like, what are we talking about here?
I mean, think about it. Like, everything is going to be touched by AI in some way.
Right, self-driving cars.
Yeah, self-driving cars, personalized medicine.
Even like the metaverse.
Oh, absolutely. The metaverse is going to be heavily reliant on AI.
And AMD could be right at the heart of that.
Exactly. They could be the ones providing the processing power that makes all of that possible.
So paint me a picture. Give me some concrete examples of how this could actually play out.
Okay, so imagine, like, healthcare, right? AMD's AI chips could be powering systems that analyze huge amounts of medical data.
So like way more than a human doctor could ever process.
Yeah, exactly. And that could lead to earlier diagnoses, more accurate diagnoses, even personalized treatments.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Or how about education? Imagine AI-powered tools that can tailor the learning experience to each student's individual needs.
So like no more one-size-fits-all education.
Exactly. It could be completely personalized.
Yeah, it'd be revolutionary.
Yeah, and it goes beyond, those two fields. Think about energy grids.
Huh?
AMD's tech could help optimize those grids, make them more efficient, more sustainable.
So AI could help us fight climate change.
It could play a big role. Yeah, and then there's the whole realm of entertainment and virtual worlds.
Like the metaverse.
Exactly. We could have truly immersive experiences that we can't even imagine right now.
It's like unlocking a whole new level of human potential.
It is. It's exciting to think about.
It is, but with all this talk of, amazing possibilities, we also have to be realistic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like there are potential downsides to AI.
Yeah, we can't ignore those.
Things like job displacement, ethical concerns.
Those are real issues, and we need to have serious conversations about them.
Yeah, like how do we make sure that AI is used for good and not for, nefarious purposes?
Right. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it.
And I guess that's where, companies like AMD come in.
Yeah, they have a responsibility to develop this technology ethically.
And it sounds like they're at least taking some steps in the right direction.
They are. They're committed to open standards. They're collaborating with the open source community.
Which is great because it brings more transparency and diversity to the development of AI.
Exactly. It's not just one company controlling everything.
So it's really up to all of us to shape this future.
It is. We need to be informed, we need to be engaged, and we need to demand that AI is used responsibly.
Well said. So to kind of bring it back to AMD, we've seen that they're making some bold moves betting big on AI and data centers.
They are.
And it seems like their success really hinges on their ability to execute on this vision.
Yeah, they need to keep innovating. They need to build that strong software ecosystem. They need to forge those key partnerships.
And they need to do it all while navigating a really complex and ever-changing market.
Exactly. It's a tall order, but they seem up for the challenge.
Well, I'm certainly fascinated to see how it all plays out.
Me too. It's going to be an interesting ride.
All right, so we've explored the potential of AMD's AI ambitions, but what does this all mean for our listeners?
That's a great question.
So we've talked a lot about AMD's ambitions in the AI space, all the stuff they're doing, but let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. Like, what does all this actually mean for our listeners? For the average person out there.
Yeah, that's the key question, right? Like, how does this high-level tech stuff actually trickle down and impact our daily lives?
Exactly.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that AMD's technology, and really AI in general, is going to make the devices we use every day smarter, more intuitive, more capable.
Okay, so like our phones, our laptops.
Exactly. Even our cars are becoming more and more like computers on wheels.
Right. It's like that sci-fi future we've always imagined is finally starting to arrive.
It really is. And AMD's chips could be a big part of making that happen.
And it's not just about, making our phones a little bit faster or our laptops a little bit fancier.
Right. It goes way beyond that.
It's about enabling entirely new possibilities.
Exactly. Things like personalized medicine,
Okay.
self-driving cars, maybe even solving some of those big global challenges like climate change.
So it's like AMD is not just a tech company. They're almost like a catalyst for progress.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. They're providing the tools that others can use to make a real difference in the world.
But of course, we can't just talk about the good stuff. We have to acknowledge the potential downsides too.
Absolutely.
Like we talked about earlier, there are real concerns about job displacement, ethical implications.
And those are things we need to be very mindful of as this technology continues to develop.
Yeah, it's not just about blindly embracing progress. We have to make sure that AI is used responsibly and ethically.
I couldn't agree more. It's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest thing is to pay attention to AMD. They're a company that's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Okay.
And their story is really a microcosm of this larger technological revolution that's happening all around us.
Yeah, it's like their success or failure could have ripple effects across so many different industries and aspects of our lives.
It's a fascinating story, and I think it's one that's worth following closely.
Well said. Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a really insightful conversation, and I think our listeners have a lot to think about.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you listening out there, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.